Hey, this is Edward Stevens, your friend in the real estate business. Here, I want to talk about a very important issue that seems to keep coming up with clients that own a home. And it's kind of the buzz on the street. So I want to make sure today that we talk about what do you do with the home you own that has the low interest rate, that 2.75%, that 3.75% interest rate. What do you do with that home once you decide you want to move? Do you sell it, or do you put a tenant in there and become a landlord? Now, even if you aren't in the boat where you are a homeowner, or maybe you are a homeowner, but you're not somebody who's thinking of moving, chances are you know somebody who could help, who this video could help. So make sure to share the video, or at least drop an @mention so they can see some of the thoughts that we're going to go over today. Okay, so I have this conversation not every day, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, where I'm running into these questions, and if other people on my team are getting these questions too. So let's go ahead and discuss some thoughts that I have on the topic. First of all, baseline. Okay, you own a home with a low interest rate. Right now, rates are significantly higher, okay? It could be twice as high. You could be looking at a 6.5, 6.75% interest rate if you're going to go buy a home today. It becomes problematic for you because you don't, if you sell your home, you kind of lose out on that great interest rate that you got. So there's a lot of people, maybe you, that are thinking, do I hold on to the home and maybe ride it out and just hold onto the home and rent it? Or do I go ahead and just cash my chips in, take all my equity and move it over to this new home that's got that 6.5% interest rate? So here are some thoughts. First of all, if you decide to hold on to the home, you need to treat your new business of being a property manager as a business. You do not want to treat it as a side hustle. It's going to be a business, whether you want it to be or not. Courts will look at it as you being in business. The attorney that could get involved one day is gonna, if you get sued, is gonna look at it as a business, and you should take it seriously because there's money at stake. In some cases, I know some people who the majority of their net worth, the majority of all the money they've made up to this point in their life is tied up in the equity of their home. So when you're considering putting a stranger in charge of your bank account, which is what you're kind of doing when you're signing a lease and putting a stranger into your house, you need to have a business mindset. You need to think about some things. You need to think about, it's going to take time. You're going to have to invest some time as being a property manager. That means it's going to take time finding the correct forms and contracts. It's going to take some time researching and educating yourself about property management. You don't need to have a PhD, but you need to know what you're doing. It's going to take time finding a tenant. And it's going to take time after you found the tenant to show show the first tenant. The tenant says, oh yeah, I'm going to rent, and then they disappear. Then the second one comes around, they're going to rent, and then they disappear. So you're going to need time invested in finding that right tenant, getting them to sign the lease, and then you're probably going to get some calls saying that the toilet's backed up, or the shower is leaking, or a window got broke, or the ceiling is leaking, or something along the way of you being a property manager. Okay, you're going to get those maintenance calls. So you're going to have time tied up in your new job as being a property manager. Keep that in mind when you're trying to weigh whether or not you're going to hold on to the home or sell it. Your time is expensive. Usually, if you do a cost analysis and you're at work making, $50 an hour, and you're doing that job, and then now on the weekends and the evenings when you're supposed to be out with your friends, out, with your family, spending time with your kids, or sleeping, recharging, going to the gym, doing some fun activities. You're now over here burning the midnight oil, doing this low income activity. You're going to probably start to resent it, because the money you're going to make when you're renting the home, although it may cover the mortgage, maybe after the first 3 or 4 months, you could get burnt out and go, I'm making $150 a month to deal with this BS. I don't like that. I'm done. Okay, so we're going to talk about what to do when that happens. You need to be thinking just like a business person. You need to think about risk. You need to be thinking about what are the bad things that can happen. Okay, so that's my first thought. Next thought, insurance. You're going to want to talk to your insurance provider about getting the proper insurance in place. Too many times I see or I hear of people who do not take out the correct insurance. They just leave their house and they go buy another one. Okay, you need to have the correct insurance in place, because you may not be covered when your tenant goes and burns your house down, or cooks meth in your house, or whatever's going on in that house. When you turn the keys over to them, you need to make sure at a minimum that you are insured. So talk to your insurance provider about that. Okay, they should have some kind of landlord policies, some kind of umbrella policies that they can talk you through. Okay, you do not want to be on the hook for that. Also, side note, want to make sure your tenant has insurance also. Get a copy of it. Don't just take their word for it. That way, if they, if some crazy cataclysmic problem happens, you're not paying for all their personal belongings. They are covered. Next topic, next thought. Talk to your real estate agent when you're weighing whether to sell or whether to rent it. Now, of course, keep in mind that real estate agents are kind of predisposed, just by our nature, to want to get you to transact, because there's a commission at stake. So certain real estate agents are going to, maybe steer you wrong and try to get you to do something just so they can make a commission. But if you've got a good real estate agent, if you've got a real estate agent that you've got a relationship with, you can have them level with you. And more often than not, you're not going to have the correct value in mind of what your home is worth. You're going to have a general idea based on maybe what Zillow says, or what some other website says, or maybe what the county says. But getting a real estate agent in there to look at your home, look at the bones of the home, look at the updates, look at the repairs, and then put together an estimate of the proceeds you will make if you sell. What is your sales price minus what do you owe on the house, minus your title insurance you have to pay for, the title fees, the taxes, the real estate commissions, any repairs you may have to do. When you can see that bottom line figure, and you can get it from a trustworthy source like your real estate agent, that could tip the scales one way or another. You might be on the fence about, do I buy or do I sell? But when you see that number and you've got confidence behind that number, then that may make you say, you know what, I will take that number. I'm going to cash out. Okay? So think about that. Next, I want to just throw a few more risk-reward scenarios out there when it comes to keeping a tenant. When you have a tenant in your home, obviously the good thing is that, well, hopefully the property cash flows. You're making a few bucks every month after you pay your mortgage and after you are paying for any repairs, and after you're paying for taxes and insurance. Hopefully you're making a few bucks. You're also paying down your mortgage. This is all assuming you have a mortgage. You're also letting your tenant pay down your mortgage every month. So hey, great deal. Now, here are some things that you lose. Okay, one thing that you lose is you lose liquidity. You lose your ability to sell the house while the tenant is in there. Now, in theory, you can sell the house with the tenant in there. It's not like it's impossible, but it is not recommended, because usually the tenant is not going to want buyers and their agents coming through their home while they and their family are living there. They're eating dinner, they're having their birthday party at your home, they are enjoying their relaxing weekend, and they're going to be less than enthusiastic about letting total strangers come parading through their home. And they'll be even less excited knowing that there's no financial gain for them to cooperate with you at all. So in most cases, you're going to have to wait until the lease is over before you're going to sell the property again. So what's going to happen when you put a 12-month lease in place? You're banking on the market not doing anything super negative in the next 12 months. What happens, okay, if you have the perfect tenant, okay, who's like, I'm going to stay there 12 months and then I'm out. And then in 10 months from now, interest rates go way up, market prices go down, and you're stuck holding a house that you really wanted to cash out. Now you may be in a position where you have to continue to rent it. Whereas if you know the property is pretty good price, it's going to be worth a lot today, maybe you just take your chances on that. So you don't know what the market is going to do in 12 months if you're signing a 12-month lease. Eviction is the next thing. Eviction is a very real phenomenon. I've had to deal with handling an eviction from a property management standpoint. It's not fun, and it's something that you really need to consider, because people don't. Forget people. You may not like to think about what the worst case scenario could be for your home, but it's really important that you put that on the table. Are you willing to go through an eviction? If you're not, if you don't have the stomach for it, if you don't have the time for it, if that scares the daylights out of you, that you might have somebody in your house that doesn't want to leave, that you might have to seek legal action to get them out of that home, you shouldn't be a property manager. You also should not be a landlord. Keep that in mind. I've had my fair share of run-ins with evictions, and tenants also tend to not respect your property as much as you. So if you've done all these updates to your home, let's say you've lived at this home for 4 years, for 5 years, you bought it when the rates were low, you got your 3% interest rate, you've put in the marble countertops, you've redone the backsplash, you've put in a new sink, you've painted the inside of the home, okay, you've finished the basement, whatever you've done. If you put a tenant in the home, okay, there's a strong possibility that the value of that home may go down a little bit in the short term because they maybe damaged some of it. Maybe they have a dog in there. Maybe they've got children that want to write on your walls with crayons, okay? Whatever, okay? So keep that stuff in mind. The money that you've sunk into this house is at stake. And now I want to talk about one of the final, well, I guess this will be the final topic on this. I was on the phone with somebody yesterday and we were having this discussion. This was a person who was from out of state, considering investing in Kansas City, kind of have a similar situation going on with them. So let's say you're in a situation where you are going to take a job out of state, or you're going to move out of state, and you really want to hold on to that house that you own that's got that 3% mortgage, that 3% interest rate. But you're going to be going across the country. You're going to go somewhere else and live. So we'll talk about now whether you self-manage a property or whether you seek a professional manager. I think there's certain arguments for both. If you're going out of state, if you're leaving the area where you can't be constantly driving by the property, you can't really get there at a moment's notice if you have to take off work and drive there because there's something going on. If you can't do that because you'd have to jump on a plane, I'm going to recommend that you get a professional property management company in place interview a few, message me if you want recommendations, or if you just want to kind of get some screening questions, I would be happy to share them with you. But I'm telling you, if you want to cheap out and you don't want to pay a good property manager to manage your piggy bank while you're across the country living somewhere, consequences could be disastrous. And the risk reward of cheaping out and trying to manage your house by phone and text when a stranger is in your house, not good. It's not looking good on the reward side, and it's looking really bad on the risk side. On the other hand, if you are interested in becoming a property manager in the future, or maybe you're interested in becoming a landlord in the future, you've kind of stumbled into becoming a landlord, but maybe you've always had an interest in owning rental property and expanding your real estate portfolio, I would certainly recommend that you manage the property yourself if you live close by. Because number one, you know the property. You know the property better than you know a property manager, better than the property manager knows the property. You know the property better than the property manager knows the property. Number two, it's a good investment in yourself to learn how to manage property, to learn how to lease a property, to learn how to sift through these contracts and get people to sign leases, and I think it's a good skill to have if you're going to be in the real estate space. You know, maybe you have a desire to get 5 or 6 more rental properties someday. Best you learn with training wheels. You know, when you're going to be moving 10 miles away, it's cool for you to be able to learn, practice on your property. And you can write your own lease, or you can get a template. You can meet the people there that are doing the walkthroughs, like the potential tenants. You can meet them. You can talk to them. You can learn how to advertise. You can learn a lot. And then if someday you decide to buy a second rental property, or you decide to buy a rental property out of state, or if you move out of state and you want to hold on to that property, you've got some experience under your belt to be able to hire a property manager, and you actually know what it takes to manage a house, what it takes to manage a piece of real estate that you're renting out. It's not some kind of obscure job that you're not really sure what that property manager does, and you're just kind of paying them. You don't really know unless you do it. So keep that in mind. If you guys have any additional comments or questions, drop them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you if you agree, if you disagree, and I'll be here to field those comments. And make sure to share this video with anybody that you think might benefit from it. It's Edward Stevens from the Stevens Group at Reese Nichols. Look forward to seeing you one day at the closing table.